Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world.
I've been looking around for salvation. I've been looking around for the truth. All around me I see frustration, and I looked all over till I found you. I sit and listen to your stories, and you're telling me, please don't worry. Lot in this world you should know, and love in life is where you should go. If you're looking for somewhere to go, if you're looking for someone to know, if you're looking for someone to guide you, then love in life will guide you.
Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world, and welcome to tonight's extraordinary live stream. Tonight we have General Izak van Zyl, leader of Boerelecioen, joining us in just a couple of minutes as we discuss the anarchy unfolding right now in South Africa. The program is as follows. Izak will chat to me from about 7:30 p.m. about what action Ramaphosa should be taking. We will then cross live to hear what the President says at 8 p.m. And after this, I will then ask Izak for his thoughts on Ramaphosa's actions. Izak will make some announcements after Ramaphosa's speech. Let's see what happened last night before I bring Izak on.
Why?
Because they're disgusting human beings.
All right. I think you get the general idea. And just for the record, that last video clip was a police car filling up with stolen goods. That's the state of play in South Africa. Now, without any further ado, I'm going to get General Izak van Zyl on so that we can have a discussion first about what Ramaphosa should be talking about tonight. Here we go. Izak, please remember to subscribe to Loving Life on YouTube and to register on lovinglifetv.com. That's where we're moving. We're getting off censorship city. Hi, Izak.
How are you, Scott?
Excellent, thank you. Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
No, it's my pleasure.
Now, Izak,
yeah,
in less than half an hour, Ramaphosa is going to be addressing the nation. The country is in absolute chaos. And of course, we know what sparked that chaos. It was Jacob Zuma.
Like never seen before.
Yeah. Now, Izak, you know a lot about what's going on in South Africa. From your perspective, what should Ramaphosa be saying to the people of South Africa tonight? Because we'll be listening to that at 8 p.m. But what are your views? What should he be addressing tonight?
In the first place, Scott, he should be addressing the violence by criticizing the instigators of this violence. And the second place, he should warn those people who are engaging in criminality that the full force of the law will be sal op hulle losgelaat. In other words, the long arm of the law
will come down hard.
Will come down on them. And in the first place, he should have been informed before the commencement of this violent unrest.
Now,
of the possibility, at least, of where and when, in terms of his intelligence ability.
Yeah. Now, Izak,
of where and when this could happen, and there should have been plans made by him in conversations with the Minister of Police, at least, and the Commissioner of Police, so that the numbers of police employed to the area be at least enough to counter the violence.
Yeah.
So what if I am in his shoes tonight, my first announcement will be that I declare the Kwazulu Natal area and the Gauteng area a state of emergency, and immediately empower the army and the police to use full force to immediately stop the violence. And the reason for that is not to be harsh and to be become guilty of police brutality or the tyranny of the government, but to break the momentum of what is happening. Because what we see is happening in South Africa is not protest actions. It's the majority of the people participating in these so-called protest actions are the total sum of criminals that are operating and use the opportunity to enrich themselves. And by only that, that element in this so-called Zuma, anti-Zuma or free Zuma protest actions, only that element of criminality should be a weapon in the hand of the head of state this evening to clamp down on crime in general. Because this is not something that started yesterday or today. It already started 3-4 years back. And in most of these protest actions, aggressive protest actions, we see the people are crossing the line, becoming criminals, doing criminal deeds. And what is the most fearing factor in this whole scenario that is playing out in South Africa is that political leaders, a former head of state, a former premier of the Free State province, are justifying criminals to run free and endanger the lives and the property of law-abiding citizens. And that is precisely why we are going to see private people, individuals, members of public who are going to take the law into their own hands.
Now, just you're talking, I guess, about the minority groups who feel threatened there. Now, surely if they feel threatened, they have a right to take deadly action if they feel that they're going to be attacked.
Absolutely correct, Scott. Depending on what the outcome of the family meeting will be tonight, we as leaders of organizations will have to take, most probably, very, very harsh decisions in the next day or 2 or 3 in order to enable our people on the ground, our civilian forces on the ground, and the members of the public, the innocent citizens in the neighborhoods, to take extraordinary steps to mobilize, to form a line, and wherever the police are absent, whenever life-endangering situations occur, they have to act. The law expects of citizens to act and to take action whenever life and property is endangered, is at stake.
Well, that's
we are not going to allow. We are not going to allow them into our neighborhoods. We said in the beginning, this fight is not the white people's fight. It's not the fight of the minorities. It's a fight between factions in the ANC. And we said that let them fight the fight. It's not our place to intervene there. But whenever they start to target, like Malema said this afternoon in a tweet, that he saw white people who joined the police in firing at people, at protest goers, they will most probably counter the attack. That wasn't attacks, that was acts in self-defense. And whenever he made a statement like that, I expect politicians to charge him in Parliament for breaking the oath of office by threatening people with their lives. He threatened to murder police members, to burn down their houses. What type of politician is he? He's not a politician, he's a murderer. And he should be arrested.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Now, one question I must ask you, Isaac, and that is that last night, Ramaphosa addressed the nation and he burbled on about a level 4 restriction to do with the COVID pandemic. He hardly touched on the real crisis that was happening in South Africa. you don't have to be a brain surgeon to understand last night that South Africa was in huge trouble. And as president, he should have been aware of that. Shouldn't he have made this announcement that he's going to make tonight last night? That would have given 24 hours. I mean,
most definitely.
You just
The
tell us
blood
about
of innocent people. The blood of innocent people. The breaking down of infrastructure. This demolishing of the economy is on his hands. It's on his hands. His hands are dirty. And I don't know how he's going to correct it tonight. It's 24 hours too late, according to me. But whatever action he wants to take tonight, we will most probably make a counter announcement later tonight.
Right.
Mobilizing our people, because we cannot allow people to make a creature, a caricature, make a joke of the economy of South Africa, and make a joke of the infrastructure in South Africa, and make a joke out of the minority groups in South Africa, who are, by the way, responsible for holding up the economy of this country. What are they going to achieve by destroying the economy? What they want to do, according to what I'm observing, is that they want to create just another Africa country and demolish centuries and many years of hard work that went into this country. And that's precisely what they are doing up to this moment. What the decision Ramaphosa, according to me, is supposed to take with regard to Zuma, it's not up to us. According to me, Zuma was sentenced to 15 months imprisonment for verminachting van die hof. He should serve that sentence. And he should subject himself to the rule of law in South Africa. Not instigating. Because that was 2-3 nights before his reporting at the correctional services. His way of instigating violence. He sang the song of Mashiniwam. Umubulu, die boere moet hardloop. Mashiniwam. He sang that songs, that revolutionary songs. And that is precisely what is manifesting on the ground at this moment. They are not destroying infrastructure that belongs to black people. And that was very well verbalized by one of the leaders and two of the leaders that I heard on the WhatsApp groups, on the voice notes. They said that they will demolish everything that belongs to white monopoly capital. And that's exactly what is happening now. Every truck company, most of them, belongs to white owners. Who is going to pay for that damages? Not the government of the day. And preventative measures should have been in place long time back, because the burning down of trucks on the highways of South Africa is not something that started last night or yesterday. It already started 2 years back. Where's the task team that the police should have appointed to investigate this type of crimes? Because the transport industry in South Africa is responsible for providing local communities with food and essentials. And that is something that the government should be in control of. And we don't see them, we don't see that there is any willingness from their side to strategically prevent this type of crimes. What we are seeing is that the police are in many instances participating or standing passively, looking on how the people are looting the trucks and the malls and the supermarkets and the liquor stores and the butcheries. And I even saw today a tire shop where they looted a tire shop, a Dunlop tire shop.
Now, Isaac,
So yeah, this is
Isaac, can I ask you
a
this?
very alarming state that we are sitting in South Africa.
Isaac, can I ask you this? Don't you think that when you look at the fracturing of the ANC, what's actually happening is you've got two oligarchies. You've got the Zuma oligarchy, you've got the Ramaphosa oligarchy and friends. And what is very, very concerning is the tribalism that's become a huge aspect of this now. You've got the Zulus with Zuma, and then you've got other Africans with Ramaphosa. And it's now becoming tribal. It's moving back to how it was. I know Ramaphosa always blames Jan van Riebeeck, but what's actually happening is the country is reverting back to darkest Africa, pre-1652, where you go back to the old culture, where you have your Zulu kings, and you have complete oppression of everybody else under that particular situation.
They forget quickly how the Mfekani murdered out the whole Ndebele tribe and the Pedi tribe, up to the Ndebele and Matebele tribes in Zimbabwe. Under Mfekane, there was a genocide that took place in South Africa, unprecedented. You can compare the genocide that took place at that point in time, the same genocide that took place in Rwanda between the Hutus and the Tutsis. It's comfortable for them to forget the real history of South Africa and refer back to Jan van Riebeeck and blame him for stuff that wasn't true. In the history curriculums of the primary schools already, they teach the children that Jan van Riebeeck was a criminal. The white people raped the black people. They enslaved them. They murdered them. They create a picture of this demonic white monster that came to South Africa, contrary to the real facts. And the real facts is that the white people came to South Africa and they provided for the African tribes for the past 368 years. They provided for them. They gave them jobs. They gave them money. They gave them the ability to develop. They trained them as engineers and doctors and in the highest professions. South Africa was the country that in the 70s and in the 80s had 2,000 plus medical doctors. And in the contrary, the rest of Africa didn't even have 200 doctors. So that's a lie. They built their ideology on a lie. And lies that they are building their ideology on. Sometime it will be proved in court.
Right. Now, when we go live at 8 p.m., Isaac, you'll be staying live with us. And sorry, guys, we just got a little network connection here. Isaac will be staying live with us. And then after Ramaphosa's speech, what will happen is that we will then have a discussion about what Ramaphosa said, and Isaac will be making a few announcements to the Boerelecioen. Now, but before we do that, Isaac, there's something I must just talk to you about, and that is the way things have spread. You know, they started in a couple of places in Kwazulu Natal. To me, it was quite clear that Ace Magashula was behind the ANC branch level involvement in spreading the chaos in South Africa, because you could see the ANC members were present at wherever there were hotspots in KwaZulu Natal. So it looks like this has been orchestrated from the suspended Secretary General, who would have had contacts with all the branches in KwaZulu Natal. And it makes sense because, you know, Ace Magashule went to see Zuma just days before. What are your thoughts on that kind of leadership within the ANC?
That's typical a leadership that wants to display its power. And what we see in front of us yesterday and today, and most probably for the rest of the week, is a power play. Is 'n magsvertoon. My authority are bigger than yours. And if you don't listen to me or do as I say, we will show you that we will break down everything, that we will be. That is criminal. The whole approach of this demonstration, to the cost of the taxpayer, to the cost of the minority people in South Africa, to the cost of the fears of our children who are seeing this playing out. Is that the type of example that adult people are setting for children in this country? That is not human. That is subhuman to perform in this manner. What example are they setting to their children? They are bringing them up in a culture of violence. They are bringing them up in a culture of whatever you want in life, you go and break in and you take what you want. You don't pay for it and you don't work for it. Everything that is smelling like Western Christian civilization, they hate, and I will repeat it, they hate it with a passion and they will do everything to destroy it. But on the other hand, they enable us to mobilize and to show who the Boere people really are. And on that point, I will explain myself a bit more later on.
Right. Now, if Zuma was a true leader, wouldn't he be making a public statement to the Zulu nation saying, stop this, you're destroying our country? Why is he so quiet?
You know, I'm missing the absence, or I'm missing the presence of Mr. Mangosuthu Buthelezi. He made a media statement the other day, I read it, but he didn't condemn what is happening. He just gave an explanation of how the colonialists in the history of South Africa continually arrested his predecessors and his forefathers and people who was part of the Zulu tribe for the past century or two, since the 1900s. He expanded on that. And non-verbally, he actually created an inner hate by the Zulu people against the white people. And he never instigated them directly. But when you read that media statement and that so-called call on his people to not go the way they want to go, he actually instigated them by repeating stuff in the history that happened. And that is only from his side. That's not the correct objective side of history. It's only his interpretation of the history.
Yeah.
So yeah,
just
I'm also missing the absence of the acting king of the Zulu kingdom. I never saw him opposing or criticizing the behavior of the Zulu people. As a good leader, and I would say that good leadership starts with bringing your people together and speak to them and talk to the gurus, to the stamkaptein. tell them, the tribal leaders, tell them, it's not acceptable to engage into criminality. There's nothing wrong with protest. There's nothing wrong with making your voice heard. But it's unacceptable to engage in criminal activities. And what we are seeing is already overstepping the boundaries of criminal activities. It's starting to go to a place where we can call it's acts of war. Because there's automatic weapons already visible. There's firearms already visible. There were shootouts between the police and these gangsters in Tembisa last night, to the extent that one police officer was shot. There was an exchange of fire between civilians and protest goers in Kwazulu Natal this afternoon.
Yeah.
And we all know, it's common knowledge, who are the aggressors in this situation.
Well,
The people,
we're moving
the
towards a
civilians,
civil war.
the civilians who stood their ground acted in defense.
Yeah.
And that's not acceptable. And that's not acceptable. What I told one of the organizational leaders earlier this afternoon is that I'm observing an agenda behind this whole protest action. I really observe a hidden agenda. And depending on what Cyril Ramaphosa is going to say tonight, will guide us in taking proper decisions for the few weeks to come. But seemingly, they are acting soft. They have a soft approach on this whole protest action. I don't think it's because they are scared. I think it's because they want the national democratic revolution to take its course. And my feeling is that not even the Ramaphosa and his cabinet care whether the economy collapses or not.
I totally
as
agree
long
with you.
as white monopoly capital take a dive and never stand up.
Isaac, I just want to say to people watching, we've got about 1,000 people watching at the moment, that we will be crossing live to Ramaphosa at 8 p.m. or he might be a little bit late. And Isaac will be staying online with us. He'll be listening to Ramaphosa speak at the same time. And then after Ramaphosa is finished, Isaac will then give his assessment of what Ramaphosa has said. And we'll also be discussing what is going to be happening in the future in South Africa. So we're basically going to analyze Ramaphosa's speech from Boerelegioen's point of view, because Isaac is the leader of Boerelegioen. And after that, we will then discuss other aspects of what is going on in South Africa. Now, Isaac, when it comes to the future, what are your, because he should be going live any second now, what are your first reactions to stopping what's going on?
I didn't catch that question.
Sorry, Isaac, I think we lost you for a second there. What I asked, look, we'll be going live any second now, so I'll keep it fairly a small question. What do you think the implications of Ramaphosa's speech will have tonight if he makes it, like his normal drivel? How will that worsen the situation?
My intelligence or my information that I received is that the Zulu factions who are driving this whole protest action will definitely go to the extent of taking up arms. That is the intelligence I had. They have the ability according to them, they have the means and ways according to them to go into an armed struggle. So, depending on what Mr. Ramaphosa will say tonight, will determine what is going to manifest on the ground. But my feeling is that if Ramaphosa's approach is going to be too soft by enabling the police and the army to do their job, then we are going to see an escalation of what we are already experiencing the past 2 days in any way. So my prediction is that this is the start of the real revolution in South Africa. And that if Ramaphosa doesn't kill the revolution within 48 hours from now, we are going to see them gaining momentum, and that will become a new normal in South Africa for the next few weeks until there's nothing left. And then we are going to be in a state of total anarchy, where there is no government anymore, where there is no law anymore, where there is no law enforcement anymore, and where we are in a position then to restore law and order and to restore the civilization as we remembered it before 1994.
Now, for people who want to contact Boerelecioen, the best way is through your website, isn't it?
Yeah, we have also a cell phone number where you can join a WhatsApp group, 063 0557 0996.
Okay.
057, no, 063 057 0996.
Okay. All right. And your website is, do you want to just spell that out to people?
It's www.boerelegioen, all small letters, .co.za.
Right. Okay. All right. We're still waiting for Ramaphosa to make his presence felt. And as soon as he does appear, we will go live. Now, you and I have been expecting this to happen, haven't you, Isaac? I mean, we've sort of understood that this is where South Africa was going.
Yeah, that's why we started the Boerelegioen in the first place, because we started to speak about this already back in 2010, 2011. And we officially established the Boerelegioen movement, the hashtag Boerelegioen campaign, as a campaign in June of 2016. And if people want to scroll down our videos on the YouTube channel and on the Facebook channel, they will come across all the predictions that we made based on the direction the ANC took already in 1994. And more so after the death of Nelson Mandela. There was a huge turn in the direction of completing the National Democratic Revolution in South Africa. And that was confirmed by the SONA speeches, the State of the Nation addresses of Ramaphosa, his very first State of the Nation address, where he said that there will be a change in the Constitution, Section 25 being proposed, and there will definitely be the confiscation of private property without compensation. So that was the proof of the fact that the National Democratic Revolution as an ideology is still on the agenda at meetings at the Niehaus. And we all know that Malema, who was formerly the leader of the ANC Youth League, started his own party, but he never broke the allegiance with the ANC ideology. He actually revolutionized that idea of forcing white people out of South Africa.
Well, let's face
so, yeah.
Isaac, let's face it, he is a part of the South African Communist Party aspect of the ANC. I'm talking about Ramaphosa. So he's clearly a communist, which is very strange
Yeah,
when you
no,
think of the billions he's made through Triple B, Double E.
Yeah, no, that is definitely so, and to the disadvantage of a very small white population in South Africa.
Yeah.
I always said when they started with this Triple B, what do you call it? Black economic empowerment.
Broad-based black economic empowerment.
Yeah. When they started with it, I said, I don't know why they are discriminating against white people. Even if you employ all the white people in South Africa, all 2.5 million of them who are not underage, there will still be a unemployment problem in South Africa. Why is the white people a threat?
I think the white people are a distraction, a useful distraction from their own incompetence. Whenever anything goes wrong, you blame apartheid. Whenever anything is involving corruption, you blame apartheid. It's just part and parcel of what they do. And I see from the side chat that Ramaphosa will now be going live at 8:30 p.m. So we've got another 20 minutes to chat, which is great because we've got a lot to go through tonight. Now,
Yeah.
do you think that one of the big issues when we talk about Ramaphosa is that he is clearly a weak leader? I don't think the ANC leadership respect him. I think he was like a Judas who just fell into the position of president after what happened with Zuma several years ago. What are your thoughts about Ramaphosa as a leader?
I know Ramaphosa from the days when he was still in labor, in the labor organizations, KUSATU. I was a very young police officer, and I know the militant way and the very harsh way he dealt with negotiations pre-1994. To such an extent that the South African Police Service at one stage arrested about 3,000 of his people, followers, at Kanana, at one of the gold mines near Klerksdorp, Stilfontein. And that caused a huge outcry from his side because he blamed the police for police brutality and all the stuff. And that was almost the mid-phase in the 80s when the struggle was almost at the high point, where the images of the so-called police brutality was sent internationally, and the picture was painted that the police was the instrument of the apartheid government to bully the black people. And that was really not the case. I was part of the apartheid police at that stage, and I was part of the riot units, the POPs. These days they call them the POPs units, the public order policing. Those days we were called the riot police. And I was part of that police, and never ever, when I can remember, I was in a situation where we had to use excessive force to arrest people. Whenever there was an unrest situation, we used excessive force to bring that unrest to a standstill. For as long as I can remember, the regulations that regulates the use of violence or the use of force in unrest situations was maintained right through my career. To the contrary, I saw many instances in the past 5-6 years where police used extreme force, more extreme force than that we have used in the 80s to control crowds. But what happened is that the time period from where you, as a commander of a riot unit, instructed the crowd to disperse until you actually acted was a very short space of time. What we see these days is that the crowd already gained momentum and even finished their looting and breaking down and burning down of buildings. Then the police come in and try to stop it. That is an unacceptable way of controlling crowds, of doing the public order policing and following public order policing principles. That is not the way to do it. That is why crime intelligence is such an important component of policing. Because the intelligence should guide your operations. And I don't see that. Because in most of the instances, when a protest action turns violent, there's no police presence or POP's presence. You only see the local police here and there, and they only stand and watch because they don't want to get involved. Because they are not equipped to get involved, and that is very much so. You cannot expect from one police officer to go into a crowd of 500 to try to disperse them. But the way the National Commissioner is utilizing his POPs units is very, very effective at this point in time. We saw it in many instances. We saw it in Piet Retief the other day. We saw it in Kulini. Kulini were already burned down in 2017. There were already 4 houses, private residences, destroyed in fires before the police even deployed the POPs unit. So that is unacceptable. Every police operation should be guided by the intelligence. And someone in the police is not doing his job. Some unit or some, what do you call it, afdeling.
Division.
Section in the police, division in the police are not doing their job properly. But as it is, the crime intelligence department in the South African police are falling apart. Every now and then, since the days of Ndluli, Richard Ndluli, there's a problem with corruption. There's a problem with corruption. And seemingly the crime intelligence unit of the SAPS are not existent. They are feeding the criminals with intelligence and not the police or the people who are supposed to maintain law and order.
Well, I don't think IPID are any better. The Internal Police Investigation Division, IPID.
Yeah, no, they are not. They are not effective. They was effective at one point in time, and that was at the time when before Robert McBride was the IPID manager.
Yeah.
There was a guy named Mabena or Mabona. He was in charge of IPID.
Yeah. Now there was some video
and,
footage.
He did an excellent job. He policed the police very effectively.
Right. There was some video footage I played just before you came on, where you saw a police van pulling up outside a shop that was being looted, and they were filling their police van with stuff. That was last night.
Yeah, that is happening, and I saw some short visuals also where the police assisted the looters. They didn't counter them or they didn't police them. They stood there passively, leave them to take off with the stuff that they took. Wat noem jy dit in Engels, met die buit wat hulle gemaak het. Now, this is a typical African situation what we are seeing in front of us, and in a Western society we are not used to this type of barbarism, hooliganism, what you can call it what you want. Afrikaans noem ons dit rampokkers. Jy weet hulle
It's just anarchy, Isaac. It's just pure anarchy. There's no
yeah,
control.
but that is because the leaderships in this country are also part of it. I think it's very difficult for a man like Cyril Ramaphosa who is himself guilty of lots of crimes and corruption in the past. That is allegations that surfaced the past few months in to quite a huge extent. Is that it's very difficult for a criminal to police a criminal.
Yeah.
And that was also in the days of Zuma. It's very difficult for a criminal to control other criminals.
Well, South Africa, you've got the biggest crime gang in the world today. I mean, the whole South African economy is run by criminals. That is what's going on.
Conmen. It's conmen.
Yeah.
It's conmen. And as misdaadleiers, we call it crime leaders.
No.
It's the same that happens in that is currently going on in South America, many parts of South America with the drug trafficking and the human trafficking.
Now, on a positive,
the leaders of the country are actually the criminals who are dealing with this stuff.
Now, on a positive side, Isaac, does this not give, with this anarchy and chaos going on, does this not give the adults in the room the opportunity to take back the classroom?
Yeah, I want to bring what you said because I only heard a very small part of it.
Okay, I'll just repeat it. On a positive note, doesn't the anarchy taking place in South Africa right now give the adults in the room the opportunity to take back the classroom?
Yeah, no, I'm very in that instance. I'm very positive about South Africa for the medium-term future.
Now,
I think within 2 to 3 days we are going to take over the classroom and teach our children their mother tongue again.
Yeah. Well, I've got a question here for you, and I think this is very relevant and pertinent at this time. We've got 10 minutes apparently before Zuma comes live. And the question is, please ask Isaac if he thinks people on farms are safer than people living in towns or people living in cities. Where is the safest place for minority groups to live while this anarchy and basically what's breaking out is like a tribal civil war takes place?
I think the places in town where the highest concentration of your own people are staying might be the safest place in a state of total anarchy, because you have the abilities, you have the skill sets, you have the engineers, you have the doctors, you have the pharmacists, you have the people who can control the safety environment in one place. So I think my personal opinion is that the town you are staying where you are a big or a large concentration of people who think alike, who look alike, who talk alike, who walk alike, and who can plan together and understand each other
and have a moral compass.
Will definitely survive even in a civil war conditions. Because if your plans are in place and you can coordinate actions properly under the command and control of experts who will be part of the community in any case, then there's no way that a very small percentage chance that a whole community will be demolished or be wiped out or be destroyed. And the enemy will also hold every time, in every action that he plans, he will always keep in mind the numbers of the opposition. The numbers and the abilities of the opposition. A farm, on the other hand, can be a safe place if there is coordinated policing activities taking place, where a group of farms are effectively protected or secured or guarded or patrolled by security companies, or where there is ears and eyes. The vulnerable people is the elderly people on the farm who doesn't have contact with neighbors anymore, who are living alone and don't have contact outside the gate of the farm, or don't have the ability to communicate effectively to neighbors, or to create a panic situation where people can act upon. So yeah, depending on the measures and on the level of security measures you have taken in your local community in town, that will make it a far more safer place. And even your house, the safety of your house will be a far more safer place than to be in a farm somewhere where you don't know the people, where you are also being traumatized by moving your stuff to a strange place, you know. Yeah, I don't want to criticize any activities or actions that is taking place by means of planning and the different approaches by different organizations. It's not my place to criticize. But my message to the people who don't want to move, or don't wish to move, or don't have the ability to move, the safest place will be in the safety of your house, in the safety of your neighborhood, in the safety of your town, even. What we experienced the past 2 days are very aggressive manifestations of the measures this waansinnige hordes can take. They were very, very much aggressive. And I'm not aware of even one white person that was injured, or was attacked, in the safety of his neighborhood. So we have to follow the agenda of this whole protest action. And that's why I said in the beginning of this interview that the agenda of this protest action is not to go into white neighborhoods and kill all the whites. The agenda is purely a faction fight between the Zulu part of the ANC and the Ramaphosa part of the ANC. And that is the part where we say we are not going to get involved there. We will not be visible even there, except if the opportunists, the criminal elements that forms part of that protest actions, decides to attack white residences, and it will most probably be conducted because of one aim, of one goal, and that is to loot and to take from the white people for personal gain, and to steal from them, or to rob them, whatever they can get their hands on.
Now, when we talk about communities, Isaac, you know, like let's say there's a small white community in, let's say, Krugersdorp or in Pretoria, and it not necessarily just has to be white. You've probably got other races in that community as well. Isn't the key right now for people tomorrow morning before they go to work, to actually go and knock on all their neighbors' doors and say hello, exchange phone numbers, just form like many communities where they can contact each other in times of need. Isn't this the critical thing they need to be doing right now?
You see, most of the white neighborhoods are already connected in terms of neighborhood watches. Most of the white people are already networked with safety groups. So that is making me a bit more positive about the whole possibility that we could be attacked. In the areas where we have quite substantial numbers, the Boerelegioen are connected in any case in all the neighborhoods. They are part and parcel of all the neighborhood watches and the CPFs in the local communities. They are already part of the community structures. And that is the point where we say that, and I issued a statement last night on the Facebook page, where I said that every person, every resident of every town in South Africa are the ears and eyes of the Boerelegioen or the police. It's now the time to observe. It's now the time to look beyond your garden gate. Look what is going on in the street. Look what is going on in the corner of the next street. Speak to your black employees. Gain trust. Let them talk to you. Try to understand what people are talking in the shops. Try to pick up conversations. And report everything that looks suspicious on your group. So that we can gather tendencies and create the ability to see when a tendency is forming. And then we can make informed decisions when we mobilize people. Because you cannot just mobilize people and deploy them. That's not the way it works. You have to work on the information, and then you have an emergency planning session with leader figures who's got influence over all the people in your town or in your neighborhood, and then you take proper decisions in deploying the people. See what is the need, see how many feet you have on the ground, and cordon, if needs be, cordon off your neighborhood. Put people on strategic places. And whenever there is a real life-threatening situation, you give an order, an instruction. And as a commander of the Boerelegioen, you take the full responsibility of the instructions that you gave to your people. And if there is a situation where one of your people have to shoot at a criminal who is armed and who started to shoot at innocent citizens, then you take the full responsibility, and you are the one who are making the statement to the police.
Right.
And you are not going to reveal the name of the shooter. Because we are a paramilitary organization, and the commander who gave the instruction take full responsibility of the scene of crime. And he will assist the police to give them the real story and to explain why this man is now dead. And the instructions will most probably not be given when there is not a necessity to be given. We don't give instructions when there is not a life-threatening situation. In other words, when there's a group of people, for instance, coming to your neighborhood, starting to shoot blank, then you are in a position to defend yourself. According to the Criminal Procedure Act.
Okay, we're just going live. We're just going live now, Isaac. So I will cross straight away to Ramaphosa.
Fellow South Africans, good evening. Ndimadekwana, Avshen, Sanbonani, Dumelang, Kaufela, Goeienaand. Nginibingelela nonke abantu baseMzantsi Afrika ngenhliziyo ebuhlungu. Ngilidumedisa kaofela kapelo ebuhlungu. Ngilidumedisa batho bote ba Afrika Tshipembe kambilu ibabao. I address you this evening, South Africans, with a heavy heart. Over the past few days and nights, there have been acts of public violence of a kind rarely seen in the history of our democracy. Property has been vandalized and destroyed. Shops have been looted. Law-abiding citizens have been threatened and intimidated. Workers are scared that they may not be able to return to work. People have died. At this hour, there are several families in our country that are in deep mourning. I speak of the families of Nkosikona Chiza, Dumiso Shezi, Kaya Mkhize, Zitembe Ndwandwe, Lindani Bhengu, and Lindokuhle Gumede in Gauteng. I also speak of the families of Bekani Ndlovu, Themba Mthembu, Aphiwe Gama, and Cebo Dlamini in Kwazulu Natal. Even as we know the high costs of this violence to property, to livelihoods, and to businesses, the loss of human life is the greatest cost of all. As a nation, our thoughts and prayers are with these families that have lost their loved ones. Many South Africans are at this hour counting the cost to their livelihoods and property. They are counting their cost to their shops and businesses that have been destroyed and burnt down. And they are also counting their cost to the safety and security of themselves as South Africans. Many more South Africans are feeling anxious and afraid tonight. Parts of the country are reeling from days and nights of public violence, destruction of property, and looting of the sort rarely seen before in the history of our democracy. Lokhu okwenzekayo manje besingakakuboni. Dintho tse di etsahala ke kgale re sa di bone mo democracy e ya rona. It started with the burning of trucks at Moy River in Kwazulu Natal this past Saturday, and was followed by blockades of roads in the northern parts of the province and the looting of shops in eThekwini and Pietermaritzburg. For the past 2 days, Gauteng has experienced the blocking of roads, looting of shops, damage to property, and burning of trucks. Thanks to the work of our law enforcement agencies, 166 suspects have been arrested in Kwazulu Natal, and 323 suspects have been arrested in Gauteng in relation to these incidents. Nevertheless, violence is continuing in many parts of these two provinces and may be spilling over to other provinces. Some have characterized these actions as a form of political protest. This violence may indeed have its roots in the pronouncements and activities of individuals with a political purpose and in expressions of frustration and anger. At the beginning of this unrest, there may have been some people who sought to agitate for violence and disorder along ethnic lines. We know that the majority of our people have, out of principle, refused to be mobilized along these ethnic lines. However, what we are witnessing now are opportunistic acts of criminality with groups of people instigating chaos merely as a cover for looting and theft. There is no grievance nor any political cause that can justify the violence and the destruction that we have seen in parts of Kwazulu Natal and Gauteng. Our Constitution guarantees the right of every person to protest, to organize, to engage in free expression and free association. Our Constitution is very clear on these issues. It gives every person an equal right to protection before the law and confers on every person a responsibility to respect and uphold the rights of others. Our Constitution is the foundation of the rule of law in our country. And this is a right that was fought for by many in our country, and many people laid down their lives so that we can have this right. It is this rule of law that guards against the abuse of power, that protects the poor and the vulnerable. It is this rule of law that enables our society to function and our economy to develop in the interests of the people of South Africa. The victims of the violence that is unfolding now, the victims being the workers, the truck drivers, business owners, the parents and families of those who have lost their lives, have done nothing wrong whatsoever. Although these may be opportunistic acts of looting driven by hardship and poverty, the poor and the marginalized bear the ultimate brunt of the destruction that is currently underway. As I said, shops have been looted and infrastructure has been destroyed. This means that our sick cannot get medication from pharmacies. Food does not reach supermarket shelves, and health workers cannot go to work. We will soon be facing a huge risk of food insecurity and medication insecurity in a few weeks. Our vaccination program has been severely disrupted just as it is gaining momentum. This will have lasting effects on our ability to consolidate some of the progress we are already witnessing in our economic recovery as well. These disruptions will cost lives by cutting off the supply chains that sustain our food, our health and production systems. The path of violence, of looting and anarchy leads only to more violence and devastation, as well as suffering. It leads to more poverty, more unemployment, and more loss of innocent life. This is not who we are as South Africans. This is not us. Time and time again, we have chosen a different path, a path of peace, a path of engagement, and a path of democracy. We have chosen to pursue dialogue and protest rather than violence and chaos. Each of us, no matter our position or our circumstances, has an interest in maintaining and upholding the rule of law in our country. It is therefore a matter of vital importance that we restore calm and stability to all parts of the country without any delay. It is vital that we prevent any further loss of life or injury or destruction of valuable infrastructure and property that sustains the lives of our people. Yes, it is important that we protect property. We are therefore mobilizing all available resources and capabilities to restore order in our country. As the Commander-in-Chief of the South African Defence Force and our security forces, I have today authorized the deployment of the Defence Force personnel in support of the operations of the South African Police Service. The National Joint Operation and Intelligence Structure, known as NetJoints, has intensified deployments in all the affected areas in Kwazulu Natal and in Gauteng. The South African Police Service is putting measures in place to call up operational members from leave and rest days to increase the presence of law enforcement personnel on the ground. The NetJoints is receiving support from the Intelligence Coordinating Committee, comprising of South African Police Service, Crime Intelligence, Defense Intelligence, and State Security. In addition to greater visibility and an intelligence-driven personnel or presence in potential hotspots, we will be prioritizing the prosecution of suspects alleged to be involved in this violence. The National Security Council, which I chair as Commander-in-Chief, will be meeting twice a day to coordinate all measures necessary to restore stability in our country. And I'd like to be clear, we will take action to protect every person in this country against the threat of violence, intimidation, theft, and looting. We will not hesitate to arrest and prosecute those who perpetrate these actions and will ensure that they face the full might of our law. This is a clear instruction that I have given our security personnel. We will restore calm and order so that we can get on with the task of rebuilding this country and creating a better life for its people. The passage of time has not erased from our memories the dark days when sinister elements stoked the flames of violence in our communities to try to turn us against each other. We live with these memories still. But we also remember that as we were preparing for democratic change, we came together as a society to end the violence that was rampant in many communities. Re ile ra ipha nako hore re buisane hore dintwa di fele mahara rona. As we confront this challenge, we should remember how at another time in our history, as we were preparing for democratic change, we came together as a society to end the violence that was rampant in many of our communities. We came together as religious leaders, as traditional leaders, as trade unions, as businesses, community organizations, political parties, non-governmental organizations, sporting organizations, and many others to bring peace to our nation. Now we need to come together once again, for each of us to play our part in restoring calm to these areas that have been affected by violence, for each of us to stand up for the rule of law and for the peaceful resolution of the situation that confronts us. This afternoon, ministers and senior officials in the economic and security clusters met with Business Unity South Africa to take stock of the situation and to develop coordinated actions. We have agreed to work together to ensure the safety of drivers, of cashiers, of patients, and customers. We have agreed to share information as well as resources to ensure that we restore key supply chains that drive our economy and improve our livelihoods. We are making arrangements for government leaders and public representatives as part of their responsibilities, be they mayors, members of parliament, members of the provincial legislature, to meet with leaders in various communities to promote stability. As part of our ongoing engagement with key sectors of society, I will be meeting with leaders of political parties to discuss the current situation and to gain from their wisdom on how we should work together to address the current situation. We are called upon, wherever we may be, to remain calm, to exercise restraint, and to resist any attempts to incite violence, create panic, or fuel divisions amongst us. Whether we are leaders of political parties, taxi associations, business organizations, or unions, we need to do everything in our means to calm the situation that confronts our country right now. We should refrain from posting and circulating inflammatory messages on social media and from spreading rumors of false reports that may create further panic amongst our people. No one should take the law into their own hands. Rather, we should join those individuals and communities who are currently working with the police to prevent looting, and those members of the public who have provided tip-offs and information about instances of criminality. I'd like to thank a number of members of our communities around the two provinces who have taken the trouble to engage amongst themselves as community members to prevent any further looting. I'd also like to thank the operational members and commanders of the South African Police Service and other agencies for their response to acts of violence and provocation, which has helped to avert bloodshed and to limit the loss of lives. We extend our best wishes for a speedy recovery to the 4 South African Police Service members injured during this violence. Constable Sangweni, who was shot and injured in Alexandra, his 2 colleagues, Sergeant Marahani and Lieutenant Colonel Nefolobodwe, who were hit with bricks, and Constable Siloane, who was shot and injured in Davidton. Fellow South Africans, this violence and destruction takes place in the midst of a devastating pandemic. There is a danger that these events will lead to an even greater surge in infections, putting many more lives at risk and placing a greater burden on our health facilities and personnel. And as it is now, a number of health personnel have stayed away from their duties because of the fear of being caught in the crossfire. There is also a danger that our vaccination program will be disrupted in some areas, just as we need to significantly expand this. Today, the acting Minister of Health informed me that they had to stop the vaccination program in a number of places in the country. We cannot allow this to happen. We will not allow this to happen. We've got to act. This moment has thrown into stark relief that what we already know, that the level of unemployment, poverty and inequality in our society is unsustainable. This has become patently clear. We cannot expect a lasting and durable peace if we do not create jobs and build a more just and equitable society in which all South Africans can participate freely as well as equally. We must therefore commit ourselves not only to peace, but to greater economic opportunity for all. We are emerging now from a long period of uncertainty and stagnation. We have witnessed the effects of corruption and the erosion of the state, the terrible consequences of the abuse of power, and the neglect of duty. We have begun a process of healing, a process of reconstruction, and a process of renewal. We have set our country on a path of progress and recovery. We cannot allow a few people among us to threaten this collective effort and to stop us on our path to putting in place the reforms and the economic reconstruction that we should have. We will protect our constitutional democracy so that we can consolidate our gains. We will reject violence and chaos so that we can move forward. Let me repeat, we are building up and not shutting down. We will not be deterred as South Africans from the task that lies ahead of us. We are faced, as we have been faced many times before, with a moment of great challenge and great promise. Let us choose the path of peace and renewal and shun violence. Let us stand firm and emerge stronger Together we will defeat those who seek to destabilize our country, who seek to reverse the gains that we have made. We will stand as one and must stand as one, united against violence, unanimous in our commitment to peace and to the rule of law. This is what we must do as South Africans. And this violence that has engulfed some parts of our country must come to an end. And let us work together to bring this to an end. I thank you, fellow South Africans. Thank you.
Wow. I don't know about you, but that was absolute. Wow. I don't know about you, but that was an absolute nothing burger, if ever I've ever heard one. I'm going to get Isaac back on so we can continue our discussion. And I've made notes.
I think we
of some
must
of the
be very
comments
careful at this point to differentiate between those Haitians that are asking for help from the US or the UN, some of whom are members of the opposition, some of whom are former leaders, and the actual Haitian people on the ground. Haitians do not view the US or the UN or even France as having legitimacy in the country. The international interventions that have been going on for decades have actually made things worse for people on the ground. So I think it's very clear that there is a divide within.
Okay, here we go. Hi, Isaac.
Hi, Scott.
Wow, I call that a nothing burger. What did you think of it?
He spoke a lot, but he said absolutely nothing.
Well, he told us what was happening, didn't he? I mean, he didn't give any solutions.
Yeah, actually, he echoed what I said with regard to the inefficiency of the police because of the lack of intelligence.
Yeah.
I was very surprised that he mentioned that. And
No.
that is something that he needs to address. It's not the normal citizens' problem, and it's not supposed to be the problem of the ordinary citizens in South Africa.
Yeah.
They have to sort it out and come to a position where they can act on exact information. That was done back in the days. Whenever there is information coming down, the police acted and deployed the unrest units or the POPs units. And I think there is a little bit of a problem with the level of minimum force that they is supposed to use.
I was going to ask you a couple of questions regarding that, Isaac. But before I do, I just want to tell you what the general, the consensus in the side chat was. And I'll just use two comments. Keith said he has no plans, clearly. And Cabs said weak, utterly weak response. What are your thoughts about those statements that people have made who've been observing the speech?
Yeah, I fully agree, Scott. For the head of state to make the situation that occurred the past 48 hours or the past 36 hours in South Africa as just part of the normal day. That is the impression that he created. As the head of state, he should have definitely, in terms of his facial expressions and in terms of the forming of messages, come down on the Zuma faction. But, you know, it is also understandable because he's speaking to his own people in his own party. I think he stood there with a red face because it's his party that is falling apart and he's the head of that party.
Yeah.
if I was in his position, I think I wouldn't have appeared. I would started to pack my bags and start to run.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I noticed, he never ever mentioned Zuma's name. And clearly this is more started because of what has happened to Zuma.
Yeah, you see, he's following a principle they call ignorance is better than giving a person credit or free publicity. So the fact that he just ignored Zuma is quite a good strategy, because everyone in South Africa knows why this protest is going on. And by mentioning Zuma's name is just giving him free publicity and creating a sort of verbal division between, or strengthen the verbal, or strengthen the division between the two factions.
What we're actually saying here, Isaac, is that he's between a rock and a hard place, because what he should have done is he should have said, look, if people like the Zuma family keep stirring people up, you're going to join your father behind bars, shouldn't he?
Yeah, he could have made use of a public platform to do that. But I think it was very wise from him not to do it, and to focus on the criminality that is taking place. And if I was he, I think that he most probably will do that, is that the people who created or instigated the violence behind the scenes, they will gather that information, and most probably will, if he is what he say he wants to do, we will see more arrests on leader figures of the Ramaphosa, of the Zuma faction, in the next few days, because there was very, very, very harsh messages coming out from the mouths, and one of those messages I heard sounded to me like it comes from one of the Zuma families, where he said that they will not focus on black townships, they will focus on white monopoly capital, they will burn down everything that belongs to white people. That is enough evidence to prove that there is coordinated leadership that is sitting behind, or are sitting behind, the violence that we are seeing.
Yeah.
But my understanding of terrorism is that this, what we saw the past 2 days, is nothing else than domestic terrorism, and that the instigation of the violence, the committing of the violence is nothing else than terrorism, and the law should deal with this crimes as if it is acts of, I want to almost use the word acts of war, because there was instances where automatic weapons was used. There was instances where firearms was used against the police, and that, according to me, is clearly acts of war. And I'm not an expert in terms of the law and how to act on this type of stuff, but it seems to me that he is protecting the image of the ANC in the first place. In the second place, he doesn't want the kloof wat bestaan tussen die twee faksies.
The fracturing between the two parts.
Yeah. I think he wants to protect the whole party as a whole, and that is why he's approaching this. But to the cost of the taxpayer
And the
and
nation.
to the cost of the nation and to the cost of the minority people who are listening to the open threats against their existence and safety.
Yeah. Now, Isaac, I want to ask you about whether he went far enough. I mean, I see two very logical things he could have done, which he never did. The first is he could have ordered a state of emergency. And the second thing is, because it's clearly the black, largely Zulu people who are out there causing all the trouble, he could have ordered a curfew from the townships, say between when darkness to sunrise. So if anyone's wandering around after those hours, they just get pulled up by the police and taken away. Don't you think that would have been a far more effective solution than just jabbering on about what had happened?
Yeah, I fully agree, Scott. He could have taken more stricter measures. And I think the reason why I think he didn't announced or declared a state of emergency is precisely what I mentioned earlier. He doesn't want to create an atmosphere of revolution or an atmosphere of war between the factions in his own party. So I think that is why he is not very willing to make an announcement to declare a state of emergency. But the fact that the army is being deployed is more or less similar.
Exactly.
They have the authority under the command of the police commissioner in that province to act decisively against these gangsters and these criminals, and they should do so. I think what we are going to witness in the next few days is and we can measure it, and we can weigh it, and we can talk about it, and we can balance it, and we can criticize it, and measure what the level of effectiveness they will have in the next few days. The willingness of the army and the police to restore law and order, because it's not a matter of maintaining law and order. They have to first restore the law and order. That's why the army are there. And then after that, they have to create the atmosphere where law and order is being maintained. So, yeah, I think the next few days will be a showcase of the ability of the ANC government.
Well, based on their past track record, it's not going to be good. Now, I've got a couple of questions here, but to do with the legality right now, and I think a lot of people are really not sure where they stand. What is the legal situation if you shoot a looter? You know, in other words, you pull out your gun and you kill the guy. And Philippe has asked a associated question. He says, does this mean that Ramaphosa now appreciates and recognizes the advantages of a licensed armed civilian population? No more new firearm act. Expect us to surrender licensed guns. Now, Philippe is going to be talking to me tomorrow night on a very different subject, but once again, I'd welcome everybody to come and join us. He's going to be talking to us about what's in the vaccine and what's actually shows up in your blood after you've had the vaccine. And believe me, if you knew what they're putting into your body, you wouldn't go near that vaccine. But that's for tomorrow night. Sorry, back to you, Isaac. Let's get back to the legal situation if you shoot a looter.
Exactly the same principles in 2021 that existed back in the days of apartheid. Nothing changed. I spoke to a legal person, Advocate Murphy, earlier this afternoon, and he wrote a document, he wrote a legal opinion on self-defense, and I want to suggest that everyone gets hold of that. I will get a copy of it, and then you can publish it also on this channel, Scott.
Yeah.
where he thoroughly explains the legality of even killing a person in self-defense. To the extent that you can, when you act on behalf of a transport company, as a crew or whatever, an armed crew with a legal firearm in your possession, that the civilian people, the civilians in South Africa can stop this looters from looting or setting stuff alight, setting fires. You can use your firearm. And in terms of self-defense, when your life is in danger. And I want to go to the extent that if someone throw a Molotov bomb, a petrol bomb, in your direction, that's a direct attack on your life. And then you can reply by shooting the person. Even shoot the person before that bomb leaves his hands. That is not illegal. That can never be illegal. But it will be better if a person that performed that act is part of a pressure group or a paramilitary group like the Boerelegioen or a civil rights organization. So that whenever you are harassed by the police and being lied to by the police, because the civil population, the population was being lied to by the police for many years. To such an extent that the normal owner of a firearm are too scared to use it. He's too scared to use it, and for the purpose that he's being issued with a firearm.
Yeah.
Or licensed to possess a firearm. And the firearm is licensed for the purpose which is stated on your license, and that is self-defense. And that can never be turned around, even by law. If you are in possession of a firearm, according to me, and according to lots of legal opinions I gathered in the past few months already, is that if you are a licensed firearm owner, even if you are in possession of the green license, and the police never confiscated or investigated any crime against you, you will remain a lawful owner of a firearm, even if that license expired.
Right.
That is food for debate by the big companies and the firearm organizations and the gun owners organizations, that they can contest the legality of declaring a legal firearm license as a person now in possession of an unlicensed firearm and charge him for that and confiscate his firearm. According to me, it's logic. It's an intrusion of your basic civil rights. When they confiscate the firearm that belongs to you, that is your property. You bought and paid that firearm, and now they want to confiscate because your license expired. But you were never declared unfit. You were never being felt guilty of any crime. You are, for the past 30, 40, 50 years, a legal owner of a firearm. You use that firearm. You carry that firearm every day. It's part of your body. It's part of your clothing that you wear every day. And now suddenly, because the date on the license expired, now you are not a lawful owner of a firearm anymore. That is, dis lagwekkend, man.
It's just laughable.
Dis 'n lagwekkende situasie. You know, the authorities are underestimating the intelligence of the citizens of South Africa. And they are thinking they are working with children to a large extent. And it's time that the people, the organizations, the leaders of organizations stand up against this this type of tyranny that they are enforcing on normal citizens. They must remember, and they must always remember, that it is the citizens, the law-abiding citizens of the country, that had put them in government, that elected them in government. They are the servants of the public, and they must never underestimate the intelligence of normal citizens, especially responsible citizens.
Now, Isaac,
and the same apply with a driver's license.
Yeah. Now, Isaac, I need to just address a particular issue. In my view, things are not going to get better because Ramaphosa was came out with such a weak message. Where do you, as Boerelecioen, draw a line in the sand where you say, that's it, guys, we've got to start protecting our own property, our own communities, etc., etc., etc. Have we reached that line in the sand yet, or is there a particular point in time where that line will be reached?
The moment civilians start to shoot civilians, the line has been crossed. I'm not speaking about farm attacks. I'm not speaking about normal criminality. But what we are seeing now is a revolutionary build-up, almost like in the movie Braveheart, where one nation stands up against another nation. And the moment the one nation declares war to the other nation or to the other group, it's not war already. We must accept the invitation for war first, in public. And we are not there yet. But the moment they start to shoot civilians in their own neighborhoods, as gangs operating in our towns like we saw the past 24 hours, 48 hours, then it's war. I already instructed the Boerelegioen to polish their weapons, give them oil, get the ammunition together, get the team members together, start strategizing, deploying them on certain strategic points. Whenever there's information of any place in this country where the protests start to go over to a revolution against a certain ethnical group, and that's the white people, then we will make a public announcement where we say, and we can even warn the government of the day tonight, where we say that whenever armed forces of the Zuma faction enters traditional white neighborhoods, we are not going to ask questions. If the police are not there to protect innocent civilians, we will act with the full force of the scripts in the act, in the law, in terms of self-defense. And if there's firearms in the hands of the aggressors, it's easy to prove in a court of law who are the aggressors in such a situation. What are they doing in a neighborhood where innocent citizens are staying in the first place? Then I will take, as the Boerelegioen, the responsibility to give the instruction and tell the people, you shoot to kill, because we are not going to give them momentum to allow them to enter our premises, our houses, and rape our children and rape our women and kill our families and our neighbors. We are not going to allow that. And my instruction to the Boerelegioen is, start, because your neighborhood is not a big space to protect. It's not a whole town. It's better to protect a smaller space and keep the innocent citizens safe in that space. Start to plan, start to get the neighborhood watches together, get the CPFs together, get a police officer that you trust on board to form a joint operation and start planning. And whenever you are attacked by this mobs, you retaliate fire with fire. and you return fire and you shoot to kill. We are not the police. We are not going to necessarily follow the rules of minimum force because we don't have the means to use the minimum force that the police are using. We don't have the tear gas, we don't have the water cannons, we don't have the rubber bullets. All that we have is self-defense firearms, and we will use that self-defense firearms to the fullest extent of what the circumstances force us to use.
Right. Now, I need to just add to what you're saying, and that is that what's become very clear to me is that these looters are opportunists. They're disorganized, and above all, they are cowards. So a couple of shots fired their way will make them scatter and run. There's absolutely no question about that. What are your thoughts about the best way to just stop them in their tracks?
Is to react aggressively. You don't take their shit. You don't talk to them too much. You don't give them a time to overthink what they are doing. They have full knowledge of what they are doing. They are there with the intention to kill and loot and plunder and to destroy.
Right.
And we are not going to allow them to do that. And that's why we say we will wait for them inside our neighborhoods. And whenever they come there, they have no right. They have no right to be there as criminals because they already crossed the line of protesters becoming criminals. And they show that there's lots of visuals, there's lots of materials to prove that in a court of law.
Yeah.
That they are not protesters anymore, peaceful protesters.
No.
They are criminals now. And the same people will enter the neighborhoods, and then the war is on. Definitely the war is on. And we are not going to allow them to kill us, to injure us, to endanger us, to put our lives in danger, and to traumatize our children. Because our children, just by looking at the images that went past our cell phones and laptops the past 2 days, traumatized my children.
Yeah. Yeah.
To such an extent that I had to have a talk with them this afternoon where I said to them, we must realize that we are living in dangerous times. And what we can do now is, in the first place, is go on our knees and pray for protection. Pray that God will protect us, that He will protect our neighborhood, that He will protect our town. And that is my message to all Christians all around South Africa, is wherever you are, whenever you hear stories and images and see images and get reports of violence in your area, as Christians, go on your knees and start to pray to a living God to protect us. Because that is the only way that we will be protected. But that doesn't mean that they will continue their destruction and go on with the destruction that they started. They are demonic possessed, and they are evil forces that are driving those people to do that. And as Ramaphosa also correctly stated, many of those people, and you can see, these very, very poor people, and they are hungry.
Yeah. Now look, what
so
I've done,
what
Isaac,
we can do is, we don't want to kill people, we don't want to retaliate on people. That is not our intention, to go into a war with these people. But we cannot, as civilized citizens of this country, allow them to enter our spaces to threaten our lives and the lives of our loved ones.
Right. Now, what I'm doing right now, Isaac, is I'm putting the Boerelecioen WhatsApp cell number into the side chat, and just encouraging people, if you see something that looks a bit sinister happening in your area, post a message on that WhatsApp group, because you got people watching that WhatsApp 24/7, haven't you, Isaac?
Yeah, we have. at this point in time, the WhatsApp is rolling like a gambling machine. Images and reports coming through all the time.
Yeah.
We created the past 24 hours about 11, 12 WhatsApp groups that are full. And we even moved the same group to Telegram. There's already 2,000-3,000 people on that Telegram group.
Wow.
Who are assisting us, giving us also information, and who are also in a position to get the information firsthand so that they can prepare whenever the danger comes to their back doors.
Right. Now, Isaac, are there any announcements you want to make tonight just regarding Boerelecioen and just giving people direction?
Yeah, I just want to announce that the past 24 hours I received several calls of leader figures in this country, mostly people of the bigger organizations, and we are going to definitely form a council of leaders within the next 2 to 3 weeks. I'm awaiting the dates for the meetings, and then as soon as the council of leaders are formed and formalized and constitutionalized, I think then the popper will dance in South Africa, because it will be a statutory formed body which will be in a position to speak on behalf of at least 2.5 million people of South Africa. Because one organization cannot make declarations or any decisions on behalf of the whole white population in South Africa. There need to be a council that must manage that type of decisions. And the first decision that I think will be taken is with regards to the safety of our communities in our local towns and historic towns. So I think it is something that we can look forward to. I'm very, ek is baie opgewonde oor die verwikkelinge en die feit dat van die leiers met ons begin praat het, en dat ons ook hande kan vat in die opsig, take hands and start to move in a direction where the leadership of this country can come together and brainstorm definite solutions, because we are living in a time where we cannot depend on individual inputs or your own input on behalf of an organization, but you have to reset your mind in terms of thinking on behalf of the whole white population and start to get involved in discussions and engage into brainstorming sessions, in planning sessions where certain decisions needs to be taken.
And I'm just going to interrupt you, Isaac. Marlene has just put a comment in the side chat here, and she says there is a mob going into residential area corner 1st Avenue and 3rd Street, Roodepoort, threatening residents to come out. The mob is armed with pangas. What should they be doing in that situation, that the homeowners, that the people have been threatened?
There should be a neighborhood group that must deploy in that situation. I think that they must form a line at the entrance of the neighborhood and drive the people out and call the police and call every emergency or every group that is available to come and disperse the crowd. Because if it is a mob, most probably it's not a large number of people. Even if it's 100 or 150 or 200 people, that mob can be handled by the police, with the help of the neighborhood watch, the CPF people and the security companies in the area. So depending on the ability of the residents, the civilian forces to deploy to the scene of crime, I think that situation there should not be given a chance to escalate.
Well, isn't this the line in the sand we just talked about?
The panga, yeah. The panga, if they want to attack, they have to attack. And then they will be met with
Deadly force.
Deadly force. Deadly force, because we don't have pangas, we have firearms. And if those people attack civilians, you shoot to kill. You shoot to kill. And that is my instruction to my people also, to the Boerelegioen and to the other organizational leaders. There's no need for us to put ourselves in danger. There's no need. And we don't need that in our lives as well. If they come to your residence and they come to your neighborhood, they are the enemy. And they already declared that they are the enemy and their intention is to destroy. So that's proof enough. Whenever they arrive there, they will be treated like the enemy. Dan loop hulle in 'n doodsakker in en jy maak hulle klaar. Finish them up.
Well,
and leave the scene of crime to the police.
Yeah, I think sending a really strong message on the first time that this happens, that if you try this, you're going to die, will stop it in its tracks, won't it?
That will definitely. If whenever such situation occur, and this is an ideal situation to demonstrate that we are not going to take their shit anymore. And the group that is involved there must act decisively, aggressively, and drive those people out of the town, out of the neighborhood. And if they return and they attack, kill them. Kill them. End of story. Whatever the political consequences afterwards might be, it will send out a strong message to the other people who have the intention to destroy and to murder. Because they must be treated like criminals, they are nothing else than criminals. And they have nothing to do in white residential areas where civilized people are staying and trying to create a peaceful society for themselves.
Right.
We are not going to allow them to come and disturb the peace.
Bruce Basters says, please tell people that have gone to protect shopping centres, they need to get home and protect their families. The shopping centres have the money to hire security. Yeah. What are your comments on that?
My comments on that is the responsibility of the shopping centre to take care of the safety of the people inside the shopping centre. And every business for that matter, because if you are working with clients, you have also a co-responsibility as a business owner towards your clients. And my call long ago was already, and I'm going to make a call to a plea tonight as well, to business owners to make contact with a local Boerelegioen commander, provide them with a written mandate, because we have a written mandate that we can fill in all his details, allowing us to protect on behalf of the owner of the business the safety of the people that are working there. And we can do that to such an extent that they will, I don't want to say, use the word never, but to a lesser extent, will be the need for people to vacate the building because they are fearing for their safety.
Right.
If you have an armed group of civilians there protecting your property, and we already proved it at several occasions in the past. We had an incident in the East Rand with one of the plastic industries. We had an incident in the Eastern Cape with also one of, I can't remember, it's the waste company, where the EFF just arrived and started to attack the people working at the premises. And when the Boerelegioen arrived with the armed forces, I call it armed forces, actually it's civilian forces, the crowd dispersed and we handled the situation.
Now, CG Chambers,
this opportunistic people,
yeah,
are feeding on the fears of people. And there's no fear needed. There's no need for fear for a business owner to call the help of an organization like the Boerelegioen to assist them to protect their property and the lives who are working on the property on behalf of him and his property.
Right.
That is the way to do. And even in situations where farms will be confiscated, most probably by the state, a group or an organization like the Boerelecioen can stand in the gap between the owner of the farm and the state agents or the state, wat noem jy hulle, die amptenare, or the people who want to grab the land and negotiate on behalf of the farm owner. And the negotiations will be over very quickly, because if I will be in charge of such an operation, I will just tell the people you have 5 minutes to go off the farm before we arrest you. You have no right here.
Right.
Common law weighs heavier than statutory law. We have an international right to possess property, and you have no right to come and confiscate this farm without the permission, at least, of the farm owner. And he didn't give you permission to confiscate the farm, so you are not welcome on this farm. You now go. Cheers. Goodbye.
C.G. Chambers says they have just burned the felt around the Blood River Monument.
You see, while we are speaking, the intention will become clear. And it is very clear that the intention the past 10 years, 15 years already, are the destruction of the heritage of the Boere people. So this is only the beginning, and we know what the final goal is. The final goal is to destroy everything that belongs to white people. The heritage, the history, they want to wipe the white people off from the bottom of the earth. And if we are going to allow it, it's us that is going to stand in the queues at the border posts for application for asylum. And that's a situation that we don't want in South Africa. That's why we, in the first place, made a stand against the fact that people want to withdraw from their traditional towns, their historic towns. We don't want them to run away. We don't want them. They have to stay put, but they must become part of a command and control system on the ground, so that the command and control system dictates what will happen.
Right.
And
now, I just want to...
If such a command and control system is in place in every town, it can be guided by a board of generals or a board of leaders who can instantly become a board of generals, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Now,
in an instant, if the conditions in this country deteriorates to an extent that there's a civil war that wants to start, or are already in the starting, or in the process of starting, then that board of generals can become a decision maker for the people of the local communities, where we say that we take possession of everything that relates to our heritage, our history, our belief system, the churches, the monuments, and our language.
Right. Now, there's another announcement that's just come out, I believe, and that is that First National Bank, Standard Bank, Macro and Game, Vodacom, MTN have closed all branches in Kwazulu Natal and Gauteng. Dis-Chem has closed their pharmacies in Kwazulu Natal. What are your comments about that?
Yeah, that will actually happen, that people will close down their businesses if it is not feasible to maintain businesses in that areas anymore. That is a very sad day when big companies like Dis-Chem and Macro and those people withdraw their business from certain areas. And the people who are going to suffer is not necessarily the normal civilized people. That is the poor people that is going to suffer.
Yeah.
Because they are taking food from their own mouths and food from their children's mouths. So that is why it's, for me, it's very difficult to understand why adult people can behave like children, can behave like what we are seeing playing off in front of us. That in 2021, South Africa is supposed to be a modern, almost African Western society, where the different ethnical groups are living in harmony. And what we are seeing is the harshest form of barbarism, the lowest form of humanity, where adults are stealing and taking stuff that doesn't belong to them, that they didn't work for. And now that is a debate on its own. Whose fault is it now? Is it the government's fault? Who failed who? They are blaming the white people in South Africa. They are blaming the white people and apartheid for the situation that they are in. But what happened in 28 years with ANC rule in South Africa? The people didn't become more civilized. It seems to me now that they became more impoverished.
Yeah, now it's interesting, Isaac, because apparently Bidvest has also closed its doors until things settle down. Now, one of the things that I've been saying to the Loving Life community for years now is please prep. Please have some spare cans of tin food, fresh water. Fill up your bath if you got a bath with fresh water. Just get some basic prepping happening so that if the stores close down, if the stores are looted or burnt, you can continue to survive with the stuff that you've actually stored. Do you want to make any comments about that particular side, Isaac?
Yeah, it's very important that for wise people to preparing before such an event takes place. Because we saw this coming for the past, how many years, 10, 15 years. We saw this type of anarchy in South Africa. We saw it coming. And it will be not wise for people to be like sitting ducks and start whenever the situation escalates to become dependent upon your neighbor or dependent upon your family or dependent upon other people when you had the chance to prepare. But that doesn't mean that it will take you through. What actually needs to happen is that the experts in every society, in every township, in every historic town will stand up and take up the leadership and start to prepare this infrastructure, start to prepare the roads, start to prepare the shopping centers, create an atmosphere of big companies to come and invest again and come and start their businesses again. And if there is a Spar or a Pick n Pay or a Checkers that remains open, take control. Take control. Go to that shopping center owner or the Checkers owner or the manager of Checkers and present to him your group's initiatives to escort transport companies in and out of town, from the place where they load the food to the place where they offload the food. So that there is a sort of a guarding system where you can protect the essential services to continue to deliver or render their essential services. That is the way to go. But for at least 2 to 3 weeks, you must be in a position to feed your children and to drink fresh water and to be in a position to survive.
Right. Now, Isaac, look, it's always a pleasure having you on, and I just wish we were talking at a better time. I've got a bunch of questions here that we were going to discuss tonight, but I think the discussion we've had has been very, very important. What I'd like to do is suggest that when we're able to, is to have a follow-up live stream in a few days' time, so that we can actually get your comments and advice on how things are happening and what the community should be doing to protect themselves. Are you happy to participate in that?
I'm more than happy, Scott. I'm very positive about what is going to happen, because that will instigate the creativity of our people, and by getting out of your comfort zone will definitely enable you to think out of the box. And in the situation that we are in, every one of us will be in the same situation. And in the midst of the crisis, you will see ideas being born, being given birth to, and new ideas and fresh ideas, and that will enable us all to just be part of one another's lives, be part of the solution, and be part of a new beginning. I think for all of us, after this whole ordeal, there will definitely be a new beginning for white South Africans.
Yeah, look, I have no doubt that's going to be the situation. Okay, I'm going to wrap up the live stream, Isaac, but look, if you can just contact Marlena if there's something you'd like to get out there publicly. We'll obviously give you the publicity through our channels, because we've now got two very big channels happening. We've got Loving Life on YouTube, and we've got lovinglivetv.com, which is the platform we're transitioning to. And right now there are hundreds of people watching this live through lovinglivetv.com, as well as well over 1,000 people on YouTube. So, you know, we have a huge audience reach. I'm going to ask you, is there a message you'd like to give to the people of South Africa, a message of hope? Because a lot of people must be feeling very fearful about what the current situation is.
I just want to remind the people that your biggest enemy in this whole scenario that is taking place in South Africa is not the hostile people that are plundering and looting. Your biggest enemy is fear. I want you to sit back, look at the situation, get involved in organizations, get involved in safety groups, get involved in a network of information sharing, and get involved with your neighbor. That is very important. For many years, you didn't even know the name of your neighbor. Now is the time to reach out, hold a street braai, get all your neighbors in your street together, get to know each other, exchange telephone numbers, get yourselves on a WhatsApp group organized. And if you are a leader, stand up as a leader and take leadership and start coordinating with institutions, with organizations, with initiatives that are already in place. And the main purpose of that is not to become the big boy in your neighborhood. It's to become part of a solution, a network of solutions. That's the only way that we are going to survive. United, we will stand, but divided, we are going to definitely take a fall harder than we ever took in the history of this country. And it depends on you, the normal citizen, what contribution you can make to make your house, your neighborhood, your town a safer place, a better place. Thank you very much, Scott, for the opportunity again to address you and address your audience and the people of South Africa. And we must always remember, no matter how bad the situation may seem, there's always hope, because we have a living God who are watching over us. And that is the truth. Salute.
Now, Isaac, I think it was Michaela said, can we have a prayer, please? Can I ask you to wrap up this live stream with a prayer, perhaps in Afrikaans, just something that just people can be part of, and yeah, I'll just hand that over to you.
Let's close our eyes. Our Father that are in heaven, we thank you for the opportunity, Lord, to, in the midst of a crisis, to get out messages to our people. Here, laat ons weet, dat ons weet, daar is hoop. Daar is 'n lig aan die ander kant van die tonnel. Here, dat ons weet dat u engele is hard aan die werk, om alomteenwoordig te wees, om ons te beskerm, u kinders te beskerm. En Vader, ek kom bid dat u vir ons in hierdie tyd nie net sal beskerm die Here, maar ook met wysheid en insig en kreatiwiteit sal seën, Here. En ons sal help om aan u woord, aan die weg wat u vir ons gewys het, gehoorsaam te word. En dat ons u sal sien soos u is, Here. Want u het vir ons gesterf, u het 'n baie erger pad geloop op die Via Dolorosa 2000 jaar terug, Here. Toe u vir ons sondes aan die kruis gesterf het en deur dit vir ons verlos het van alle boosheid, van alle ongeregtigheid. En Vader, ek bid dat u lig sal val op die duisternis, dat u geregtigheid sal val op die ongeregtigheid, en dat u ook die president en die regering van hierdie land sal help om die regte besluite te neem, om hierdie nasie te lei na vryheid, na vrede en na voorspoed toe. Ons bid dit alles in die naam van Jesus Christus, Here, want u het vir ons 'n kosbare prys betaal. En help ons, Here, wat in leierskapposisies is, help die mense wat oral in leierskapposisies is, Here, om die besluite wat hulle moet neem in wysheid te neem, maar dat hulle ook hulle oog gerig sal hou op die berge, hulle oog gerig sal hou op die verlossing wat reeds vir ons bewerkstellig is. En Here, die oorwinning wat reeds vir ons daar is, en dat ons daardeur nie in sak en as sal sit nie, maar in oorwinning sal lewe, Here. Dat ons eintlik in 'n posisie sal wees om te dans en te juig, om te weet dat die deurbraak is voor die deur. En Vader, dat u die duisternis self sal uitsorteer. In Jesus naam bid ek dit. Hou ons veilig, Here, bewaar elkeen van ons. Bewaar ons teen hierdie virus, hierdie onsigbare virus, en help die wat reeds die virus het, Here, om vinnig gesond te word. En die wat reeds siek is, Here, en gesterf het, vertroos die families, Here, met die wete dat u ewigheid, dit wat u vir ons na hierdie lewe het, is baie groter as die kort leweetjie wat u vir ons op aarde gegee het. Ons bid dit in Jesus se naam met dankbaarheid en danksegging. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Isaac. Look, we'll chat again soon, but thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us your thoughts. We live in critical times in South Africa, and people around the world are watching and praying for you and the South African community, because with Loving Life, it doesn't matter where in the world you live, we are all family, and we all are right behind you.
And we appreciate it. Thank you very much, Scott. And thank you everyone that also looks after us and watch our backs and defending our purpose also in die buiteland. Baie dankie.
Okay, thank you to the moderators for looking after the side chat, and thank you for everybody who's joined us tonight. I hope you've subscribed to Loving Life on YouTube, and you must definitely register on lovinglivetv.com, the platform that we are moving to, and we're doing that because of the issues we have with censorship by big tech, just to be very clear about that. And just regarding lovinglifetv.com, we have 20 other channels, including Boerelecioen, that we actually mirror on lovinglifetv.com. So if YouTube do pull down one of these channels, their videos are safe and will continue to be displayed. And if you know of some channel which is worthy of being on lovinglifetv.com, please just send me an email. We also have a fantastic forum which is growing fast on lovinglifetv.com, where you can read articles, where you can share information. We do everything from daily bread to recipes to COVID-19, and of course we discuss this without any censorship, so you get a lot of different perspectives on this sort of stuff. All right, I'm going to wrap up the live stream now, but as usual, what I'll do is I'll keep the side chat open for a few minutes so you can say your goodbyes, and I hope to see you tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Johannesburg time. I will be talking to Philippe. We will be talking about just what they're putting into your veins with these vaccines, and it'll make your skin crawl. This has not been talked about by the mainstream media, by the way, and take care, guys. Bye for now.